Hey everyone, and welcome back to the weekly Unreal Engine Twitch live stream. I'm your host, Chance Ivey, Community Manager, and I'm here with a familiar face, Dana Cowley, who has been MIA for the last 6 months or so. Thank you for coming back. We've also got a head of licensing for the Americas, and I believe Australia. Are they part of that too?
No.
Oh, well.
Does that sound like that's part of the
They
Americas?
speak
I was trying to get them in there as well too. But anyway, so Joe Kreiner.
Hey.
And Marketing Manager Amber Sharif.
We got the audio thing again. I have to switch over.
We've got the audio thing again, so we have to switch over.
Oh, that's
so
fun.
we will be right back-ish. Are we back? We're back. We're back. Awesome.
Are we deafening you guys this time?
Yeah, are you
we
dead?
okay?
Are you still with us? Did we kill anybody? I hope not.
We're
Thank
sorry.
you, Shelly. So yeah, real quick on that, we're trying to work out how to be 1080p up to Twitch, and we're running into a couple of, I guess, sound issues. We ran into it with UT yesterday, and so we're trying to get in today, but thanks for your patience. We are back, and yeah, where were we? So yeah, Amber, Joe, Dana, we're here to talk about sales and marketing, kind of what to do to get your name out there, get your games in the hands of people. But before that, let's hop over to the news, Shelly, if we could. Great. All right, so Silicon Valley virtual reality. If you're like me, you love VR, and Epic does as well. So we've got our very own JJ Hazing is heading out to SVVR Gathering to give a talk on staying on top of VR innovation with Unreal Engine 4.
And there's his headshot, so you
There-
can find him
there he
and
is.
ask him questions.
Yeah, look at that man. I just want to.
Looks like the friendliest man on earth.
Not just
right?
looks like. Have you ever spoken to him?
Yeah.
That is the friendliest man on
Is
earth.
that his official headshot, Dana?
As of right now, yes, it is.
So yeah, JJ will be out there giving a talk, and let's see if we can pull up the site here. Yeah, there's more information. It's basically the same language we had there on the blog there before, but yeah. So if you're in the area for SVVR, which I wish I were, but I am not, please head out to do that next week to hear JJ talk. And on to Marketplace release. So each week we get new content to send out to you guys via the Unreal Engine Marketplace, except for that 1 week. I have to say that now for every time because we missed 1 week. It's a little disclaimer. Anyway, this week's no different. We've got Tiny Little Studios putting out Crazy Insane Door Pack. So if you're into crazy and insane doors, not your regular normal doors, that's one for you. I got a chess set by Clinol SL. A horror hospital pack by Archer. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce
Arthur
that
G.
name. Arthur G.
I think it's Artur.
Artur?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is
Oh,
Artur.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good catch. Good catch.
Thanks, Joe.
No problem.
I before E, right, Joe?
Yeah, you got it.
Background Shapes by Octopus X, which that does not look like a place that Octopus would live. And then Blueprints pack, we have JC Inventory by Jack Condon. Match 3 Blueprint by Games Perspective, which is kind of cool if you want to make your Candy Crush clone. And 20 AAA brick wall materials by Real Surfaces. And then look, color grading packs by Vulcan Sahin. So if you're going to be the Instagram of UE4, this is the pack that you need for your screenshots. Kubold back with some more Sword and Shield animation sets. And 32 HDRI lighting environments by Joost van Hout. And cool. So those should be available on the Unreal Engine launcher. You should be able to pull those down as of yesterday, actually. It went out a day early. So thanks, John Jones, for getting those out to everybody. And it's that time again. Next week, everybody in the whole world, I'm just kidding, none of us are going to go, but a lot of people from Epic are heading over to Nordic Games. So if you're in the area, swing by and say hi to, I guess, Short's going to be there, everybody's favorite Turences. Mike Gamble, the Joe of Europe. Joe Groff, Ellen Liu, and Osman. A lot of you guys probably know from the community. He's our DevRel tech artist out there. So they'll be out there doing different talks.
There's a free mixer.
Yeah, there's
even if you're not going to the show.
Yeah, if you're not going to the show, there's a mixer. So Hornets is hosting a free mixer, and our crew. I'll put them in there too, since Blog says it, but apparently it's really his. That's on Thursday, May 21st, my birthday. Shh, don't tell anybody. I wish I could be out there for that for my birthday. It'd be the greatest thing ever.
It's
and
always
then
a good party.
Yeah, and then after that, we're bringing the party to the awards. So we are sponsoring the actual awards party afterwards with Freedom Lager, the Unreal Engine branded beer. I wish I were joking. I'm just kidding. That's the most incredible thing ever, and
Wow.
it's a thing. So if you're at Nordic, send some of those back to HQ. I would love to
now that is
imbibe.
marketing.
Yeah, right
You
there.
like that?
Yeah, I think we're done here.
I wonder if an American made that. The Freedom Lager, just into the Nordics. No, anyway, so we've got some licensees out there too, giving the keynote from Oscar from Not Entertainment, and then let's see, is it
Armin.
Yeah,
Armin.
Armin
Yeah.
from
Awesome.
Coffee Stain. Talking
You
about what I
can
learned
just
about
stop
marketing.
watching this stream right now. And,
Just go see that
and go
talk.
see that talk.
Yeah, just fly yourself to the conference if you're not close, and then just do that. You guys want to just go home?
Yeah,
Actually,
seriously.
great.
Armin knows more
Nice
about
stream,
marketing
everybody.
than all of us combined. That'd
No.
be perfect.
And then there's a panel, the newest survival game, being Indy, with a number of our guys, as well as them. So, yeah, if you're in the area, please go because I cannot. I would love to be there. It's bound to be a really good time. All right, with that, we'll move over to the community spotlight. Each week we try to highlight around 3 projects that have kind of caught our eye. And the first one we've got this week is, let's see, Torture Cube by Project Torture. It sounds terrible. It's a lot more lighthearted than that, though. So if anybody knows me, I'm a huge fan of spatial games or puzzle games, and this is kind of it's kind of both. It's just a simple gameplay style where you roll a cube and you move around. Kind of got a little bit of that Fez element of rotating gravity, if you will, or changing the perspective to change the actual gameplay world. So you've got kind of a set of moves. If you see up there in the right corner, it goes down as you move, but you try to collect these little silver Cheerios. I hope they're Cheerios because I love cereal.
Mints.
Yeah.
Like lifesavers.
Yeah, and get to the goal with, the highest score possible. So, really cool game there. I'm going to skip ahead here because this is quite a long video, but yeah, you'll see there's some enemy cubes in here too that'll try to stop your path. So you have to go step on their switch and make them, stop in their path, actually. And they'll block you and they'll make you, soak up your moves so you actually get fewer points. Anyway, super simple concept. Really fun looking game. I hope I can actually play it somewhere. A lot of our guys are putting their demos onto the forums for us to check out. This is one I hope does the same. So, cool. I clicked the wrong X, the one from that. And yeah, so this is from Attempt D. So taking feedback also in the forums. If you want to go check out the video and then tell them how you feel, please do. That's awesome. He's talking back and forth with some of our guys in there right now. So, second one we got up here is it's a game called Courage. So it's designed to be University of Derby. It's designed to be a co-op VR experience. I wish I could hear the sound because it sounds really great, but no, I wish I could because it's pretty great.
Alex.
The concept is that you're a little girl and there's a dog with you. It's kind of like the Okami dog, but it's actually clear. It's like the stag in Harry Potter, like it's like lit and glare it is
Oh, yeah.
and glowy. And
I've
so
heard
one of
this
you,
on Twitter. Yeah, this
one
is
of you
cool.
controls the dog, and one of you controls the girl, and you basically move around, you solve puzzles, and you explore the world to kind of overcome your fears. So it's kind of like Gone Home or Ether One, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
The story tells itself while you play, right? There's 4 stages, and each stage is a different fear that you're trying to overcome. It's a team of only 11. They built it in 12 weeks.
Wow.
So art and all. And they're up for Autodesk CG Student Awards right now.
Very cool.
Yep.
And I've got a link to that here in a second that Alexander should be able to pull and drop into the chat. But yeah, they're hoping to make this downloadable soon as well on our forum. So move ahead a little bit here because this is quite a long video as well. But
Can you pet the dog?
I didn't see any dog petting when I was watching before, but it's a good question for you to go ask them inside the forum thread. Dun dun dun! So if you want to pet the dog, ask Ed _ on our forums and see if that's something that we can do. But yeah, all the information's there. And yeah, they said that they hope to make it downloadable soon. By the way, here's a spider. Yep, I'm dead right there. Like I die, I stop playing, I move on about my life. But I'll probably get to that point at least because it's a beautiful looking game. Cool. And then the last one we got today is, so a while back we had Guillermo Moreno had made another Mass Effect inspired scene, and this is another one of his creations. Yeah, so disclaimer, this is really cool to me. It's a remake of a level in Medieval, the old PlayStation 1 game. And the greatest thing about this disclaimer is like, I'm really sorry to piss everybody off and show you this because it's not a real thing. It's like, sorry guys, Team Fake wins, right? But Yeah, it's just the character walking through the scene. Let me hop ahead from some of this. Yeah, it's Galamir. So I just love seeing things I grew up with reimagined with today's tech. I spent hundreds of hours, as a lot of other people did, playing this incredibly dumb action game. I love everything about it. Yeah, there's not much gameplay outside the environment. I really hope that he ends up going and putting more stuff into it. But a really good reuse of the renderer, good use of lighting, everything else there too. So.
Yep, looks great.
Yeah. And Guillermo's not on our forums as far as I can find. Everything I pick up from him is from his Vimeo channel.
Yeah,
so.
and his website's awesome. He's got a lot of really good work
Yeah.
there. Like, it kind of blows my mind that he's not already doing pro work in the studio somewhere.
Dan Fortes. A heart that cannot beat. Anyway, awesome. That's all I got. All right. And so that kind of wraps it for our community spotlight today. So if you want to be in the community spotlight, we pull most of that information from the forums, from Twitter. Reach out and show us what you're working on. There's really long threads inside our Screenshot Saturday post on the forums, as well as what are you working on, and just everything there. So if you're working on something cool, you want to be in the spotlight, let us know what you're doing. Chances are we might just grab it and show it off. Same goes for Instagram too, right?
If you're on Instagram, use the UE4 hashtag, because we
Yep.
are constantly reposting other people's work there.
Which is a good segue into
Dun-da-dun!
the feature presentation. So hi, yeah, we want to talk about marketing and sales, right, today. One of the things that a lot of people ask me is like, when do I start even talking about my game? When do I start, doing anything? When do I start thinking about these things? It's similar to Jay and Cannon when they were on here. It's like legal, right? It's like, when do we even know we need to be a business? When do we know when we need to get a lawyer? What are those things? And so
Probably earlier than you thought.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So usually what I've ended up telling people is like, when you have something that you think is going to be something, and you know you're going to do it, like you're going to finish this game, or you know that you're going to try to get something into some people's hands.
Yeah.
That's when you just need to start thinking about a strategy or a plan to actually move forward and stuff. So you guys have been in the business for quite some time. Joe, your beard, if it's any indication.
Yeah, 17 years.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to look at everyone else and go, wow, look at those crazy white beards.
Yeah, and so you had to get one for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I'm working on it myself. I'm going to keep shaving mine until it comes out that color, and then I'll move into full Kreiner mode.
I feel like you've got a few years.
I probably do.
Yeah.
17. Yeah, you got me by a few.
A few.
Yeah, that's cool. So with that, I mean, like, so where do we start? What's important to start out with?
Well, I think let's start at the beginning. I mean, when you're an indie developer, I think you in a lot of cases you're in such a hurry because you didn't think about incorporating or how you're going to market your game until the last minute that you make a lot of common mistakes that we can talk about. I mean, the first thing is you want to pick a name that's memorable and awesome. Don't pick we're 3 15-year-olds in my mom's basement as a name.
Because you're probably not going to be 15-year-olds for very long.
Well, right, and you want to, you're forming a professional organization. I know, sometimes making video games is a hobby, but if you're making that move into making it a business, you've really got to think about it that way. So, the story I love to tell is Tim in his parents' basement, handwriting out manuals and putting floppy disks in mailers and sending them off to Electronics Boutique back then, and then choosing to call the company Epic Mega Games.
Yeah,
Tim by himself.
Yeah,
and I think that's for a programmer, for a guy that is so focused on technology, to be that to think that far ahead was really genius, and you have to do that. I mean, if you're taking the time to make a product, you want to pick a name that's memorable and makes people think that you have some credibility.
Mm-hmm. It's really funny. That story always reminds me of when I read about when Atari first started, and they tried to keep the company as small as they could for as long as they could, but they wanted to be legitimate, and they were trying to infiltrate everywhere that they could. But Nolan Bushnell told his receptionist, when she got a call, wait for 3 minutes before she comes and tells him. So people would think that she was getting up and going to find Nolan when really
Right.
he's just sitting at the desk next to her,
Yes.
right? Like, so it's like,
Yep.
yes, Nolan Bushnell, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, oh, they must be like, some huge organization. We should work with them,
Totally. And I think that kind of attitude, it moves on to everything. When you form, you want to pick logos that make sense. And I'm sure Dana and Amber can talk about some of the things you want to think about when you're picking a logo. But you want it to be professional. You got to think about all the different usage cases that it could end up being used at. I always like to say it's like artwork off of a heavy metal album from the 90s was cool when I was a kid, but you don't want that to be your logo, right? It's got to look professional. So I don't know. You guys have seen a bunch of things over the years. What's good?
Sure. I mean, it's good to sort of sort of focus test across, different products that are successful right now. Look at what they're doing, consider the graphical style. You really need to have a vector version of your logo. It's something that's going to be used for print, web,
especially.
totally scalable if you want to blow it up
T-shirts.
big, t-shirts,
Stickers.
If you have a 4-color logo, that's fine, but you also need to have like a 1-color or a grayscale version that can transfer. Think about little small elements in the composition that, does it scale down into an icon? Or can you distill it down to an icon? Or does that get lost? Those are things to think about.
Yeah, and kind of keeping with that, just kind of cohesive, like even if you have to have an icon that's small, like that goes on a button, but as it gets bigger, you have words with it too, right? That actually describe what that is. I remember the team Congo that we had at EGX, they had their name Congo and then the thing with it, but it had the hand with the name.
Yeah.
And then the buttons was just the hand, because you can't read the text on that, right? So
It was memorable.
yeah.
Yeah. And you want a logo for your game and your company.
Yep.
Maybe when you start out that might be the same thing, but you got to think about shipping more than that one game.
You do need to
right?
have both.
Yeah.
Well, I think also in terms of branding, it's important to think about what, not only like being professional and having a professional organization, but picking branding that's also like sort of authentic and true to who you are and something that you would be proud of and identify with. And I also think that, it's not like there's just one shot at this, especially when you're starting out. It's the kind of thing that you should test things out. Don't necessarily splash it all over your website, but just start showing it to people, getting their feedback, seeing if they relate to it, seeing if it starts to resonate with people, because I think that's pretty important as well.
Yeah. I have a great example of that, and I hate to throw you under the bus, Aaron and Ashton, but here it comes. The Lukewarm Media guys with Primal Carnage. Love those guys, a great indie developer, but I can remember them being at E3 like 3 or 4 years ago, and every single developer that I introduced them to, they went, Lukewarm Media? What were you thinking? It's like you really want to pick something, and they've moved on to other names now, thankfully. But you want to pick something that stands out and doesn't get people to think you're just kind of coasting along,
Like,
I guess.
like room temperature.
Yeah. It was cute, but it just the reactions that they got were something else.
I mean, that leads to kind of like a larger branding sort of conversation. It's like, it's not just about creative, it's about what are the values that are associated with your brand, what's your personality, what's your tone, what are, not just like what are the pillars of your game, what are the pillars of your brand, like who are you, Amber had a good analogy one time about, we did this panel at ECGC, and why don't you go ahead? It's like if it's specifically your game.
I don't remember what I said.
I was trying to throw that one out because I wanted to make sure you get credit. So it's like if your game is your best friend, how would you describe that person?
Oh yeah, that's my favorite branding exercise.
Yeah.
When I think of branding exercises and you're trying to come up with a brand, a really great exercise to try is and you can pick any brand and do this, and I suggest thinking about it with brands you're already familiar with before starting on your own brand. But if Apple was your best friend, how would you describe them? And people come up with a bunch of different adjectives, and you'd be surprised, people generally come up with the same adjectives. And if IBM was your best friend, how would you describe them? And then you can sort of see how those adjectives tend to change, because they have really well-defined brands. And then if you do it with your own game, okay, if my game or my company was my best friend, how would I describe them? And you could even try it on other people who know your business really well. It might surprise you what you get, but those are the tone that you're sort of putting out there to people, the impression that you're putting out there to people, and that's usually a very good place to start.
Brands are people too, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, brands are people too,
When-
says the marketing department.
And yeah, I mean, you need to build a story around your company, right? And I guess that's what marketing people call brands, you know.
Yeah.
Amber, you were showing us a really cool page earlier that had kind of all of the considerations you're going to need when you're doing social media. You got to think about this kind of stuff in advance when you're designing a logo and coming up with branding for your company.
Yeah, so we found this on the web. This is fantastic. Sprout Social has a Google Doc that you literally, if you Google this always up to date social media, you will get to this page, and there's a link there for a Google Doc, and that Google Doc has literally every social media site. If you want to hop over to.
Yeah, one second. I'm writing this into the chat, so
Oh yeah, no
tell 'em
worries.
what to Google.
Yep. It has a bunch of different tabs on the bottom, and those tabs will say, okay, if you're posting to Facebook, these are all of the, so this is it, and you can see there's different tabs on the bottom. And Sprout Social does an excellent job of keeping this up to date. So depending on what you're doing, you want to create different images as you're posting to social media. You want to make sure to follow these guidelines because it optimizes for these different platforms. And of course, you know, God forbid they should all agree on the same, you know, social media sizes. So
What?
if
People
you're
have
putting out
different
an
ideas for
image,
design.
yeah, why would they do that? If you're putting out an image, you want to make sure that you have that image in each of these sizes and that your screenshots or whatever it is you're posting is optimized for each site, because then their algorithms will look at that and be like, oh, well, we want to show this more because it's more optimized versus this is someone who's just randomly posting something and not thinking about
cool
it.
too. It's like got tools in here too about the doc itself, how you can set up notifications, how this changes, and you can set up your own. So this is really great.
Yeah,
and
it's excellent.
I think one key takeaway here is that there's not one piece of creative to rule them all. It's great to have awesome high-res screenshots and key artwork and logos, but you have to think about how you're targeting each channel. When you make these posts, what's going to resonate well on Twitter versus Facebook. I mean, we actually look at what type of content performs best across our channels. Community created content performs extremely well on our Facebook page, for example, whereas on Twitter, people are really excited to hear about new features.
Right, they're looking more for updates than from us.
Yeah, know your audience and lean into those, right, as opposed to just try to spam out the same thing. I remember, was it
Well,
like...
see what
It's
works.
really know your platform, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see what works for your game too. Like you may have a community that's more on one platform than the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I remember about 6 years ago, everyone was on Hootsuite, and they just hit a button and it would just everything would go to the same channels and stuff. And we've come very far from that, right? Like.
Yeah, we never just like cross post the
Yeah.
same exact thing to all channels. It's important to sort of customize, because I mean, if you have really loyal fans, they're probably going to follow you in all the places that you are, and maybe they're looking for a different type of conversation or information there.
And on that too, speaking of community, like in talking to people on those channels, it's like know how they like to communicate, know how they like to digest data, know what their motivations for even using that site are, and what they want to see from your game in that site.
Yep.
Twitter might be one way to have a conversation, but Facebook is completely different, right? We just the things that people say on both is like a deep contrast, and so kind of knowing what people expect there and how to really cater to that audience specifically is kind of paramount.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's really fun to always try to keep up with how Facebook is prioritizing or not different types of content.
You said it's fun?
Well, it's real fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like some days, like well, for a while, YouTube links would just had huge traffic, but now, Facebook has integrated native video, and they want, they want
turn
you
people away from
uploading
that.
directly through them. So, and then they'll optimize for outside links like news articles, or if you're linking over to your blog, that might get a bigger bump than say, random status update, right?
Yeah.
And the more posts you can integrate with media, the stronger they're going to perform. I mean, I rarely put out a tweet that doesn't have some sort of an image associated with it, because it takes up more space in the feed.
Yep.
People are going to engage with it more. A picture communicates more than you can in your little 140 characters.
Yeah, because it takes some of those characters from you too.
It does.
It
It does.
does.
That's one of the reasons why we're also trying to use the UE4 hashtag more, because it's just shorter than Unreal Dev, and it's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
easier for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, every letter counts. It's
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
grammar no-nos am I going to make today?
Yeah.
See, abbreviate names. Oh,
My elementary school English teacher would be so angry with me on the Twitters. It's really
She's
bad.
probably just angry in general now because
Yeah.
people just talk that way.
Yeah.
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 That's awesome. So, yeah, you talk about starting up early and putting together, a plan. Like, what does a business plan look like for a smaller independent developer? Like, do you want to like understand more? What do you need to understand first? Is it like your schedule and like when you want to start talking about specific things, or is it more about do I want to target this specific type of person, like, or is it everything?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm kind of the tip of the spear for Epic as far as well, and Chance you are too, in talking with the developers that are using Unreal Engine, and just the stuff that I've seen that works really well over the years are the guys that plan well in advance. Once if you're just building a hobby project with some friends, once you guys get to the point where you're like, oh, whoa, this is really fun, we're going to transition this to like something we're going to try to ship, you need to start sitting down and thinking about a business plan, thinking about budgeting, how you're going to get to the end, and thinking about how you're going to market the game right away, and potentially budget money towards marketing, or hiring a PR person. I'm sure we'll talk about that later, or just generating art and all the things. Like if you're a bunch of guys that are operating kind of as volunteers and you're just getting equity in the project, that's a lot easier to do. But if you're paying somebody to generate art and things like that, you got to budget for it, and you got to budget for it early, and so what you're going to need to really take that product to market. The guys that run into trouble, tend to be the really passionate developers. They don't even consider the business prospect of making games until they're a month or two away from shipping, and then it's like, well, you don't have the support structure in place to really take advantage of it.
Especially today, like I've been places before, contracted or worked on iPhone games that didn't really think out a lot of the live ops parts of what happens once you launch, right?
Yeah.
And they don't understand what the impact that actually has on your game. You can't pivot and change and iterate live on the fly that you need to in that market that is very shifty. Same with like anybody that goes to a Kickstarter too early, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we have this game, this idea, we're almost there, and it's just like, okay, let's just put it there because that's what we do next, right?
Well, we
It's
can
like
talk
that's-
all day about
Should
Kickstarter.
we talk about Kickstarter? Because it's the elephant in the room, and it needs to get addressed.
Well, I mean, with the Bloodstained Kickstarter, over the last couple of days getting funded, I think for me, and I'll be perfectly brutal with this. If you're an indie developer, Kickstarter is not going to solve your problems, right? It's a great marketing tool. It's a really good way to get the word out about your game, because and I mean that as you are treating your Kickstarter launch as a product launch. So all of the marketing effort and the awareness that you can push into that, it has to go into that. But it is not the place to fund your title. Even Bloodstained, they're way over what they originally asked for, but what was it, like $500,000 or something?
It was $250, but I mean,
Yeah,
we're
you
talking.
can't fund the
or
game
maybe
for
it was
that.
500. It was 500, but I mean, we're talking about Igarashi-san.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Which is
You know-
an important point, yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, this is somebody who is like one of the original creators of the Castlevania series.
yeah, I know.
You know, and it's like the Mighty Number 9 Kickstarter that also just blew everything. Inafune-san like blew everything out of
Yeah.
the water. I mean, these are guys in their own.
If you've got credibility or
Yeah.
experience as a developer, that you can show that you've shipped products and have some experience doing that, Kickstarter might be a good option. If you have a
For
great
funding.
IP, for a big marketing boost, maybe some funding to help get started. But more than likely, a lot of these Kickstarters, they're using the success on Kickstarter to show there's demand, and then they can raise money other ways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
they're using it very strategically.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point to make. I think that, if you have a really awesome Kickstarter campaign plan, and you're able to invest in making a really great video, and you can do it and set a goal that you can reach,
Yeah.
then it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy to come back and say, well, the Kickstarter didn't quite work out, but I mean, some guys still totally do it.
Some, but man, that's if you put your game up on Kickstarter and it fails, that potentially is saying to you that the market does not want your game. A lot of people have a hard time internalizing that, right? Now, it could be that you just didn't put the effort behind it, right? And it went unnoticed.
We're talking in like in a ideal scenario where you did all the right things.
Yeah,
and you
the market has now told you they don't want your game, or you missed the audience,
or you ask for way too much,
or you ask for too much.
That's
but really, that doesn't. I've only seen that occur a few times. I mean, it's pretty brutal. Like you're putting your idea out there for people to essentially upvote it, right, with money. And if they don't, it's hard to recover from that because most publishers aren't going to want to talk to you. It'll be hard to raise money. So it's a scary thing to do, but if you do it right and you have kind of the credibility backing to do it, it's a huge marketing win, right?
Yeah,
it's a huge marketing win.
Yeah, because you're funded now, and like that's
well, also
that
like,
is giving you that credence.
If you look at Bloodstain's a really good example. I mean, all the stories that have been written about that Kickstarter, it's been on all of the news sites. Twitter's been blowing up. It was trending on Twitter the other day, and you can't buy that kind of marketing as a game developer.
It's actually the way around. Like I think that marketing got more money back into their Kickstarter because they got way more eyes on it. It's like, oh, this is that guy. Oh, so throw more money in it. Everybody else is too, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to be a part of it.
Yeah, but as an indie team with a new IP and not a lot of experience shipping games, Kickstarter is a scary place. It's really scary.
Yeah. I mean, I will say if you you have something great on your hands and you're able to form relationships, and sort of tee up that big impactful moment when you launch, it's kind of like doing traditional PR where you're saying, okay, this is going to be coming, and you hit up your people, maybe you tell the media under embargo, and you've got some key partners in the mix to help you get that word out. That can work.
Yeah.
That can work, but again, like have a reasonable goal and have a plan to sustain your momentum.
I think that's one thing. Like if I were taking a look at it, I don't know that I would just write it off completely.
Yeah.
But like what you say, as a funding source, it might get you some of the way there.
Yeah.
But if you can set a reasonable goal that that you can hit, and you move forward with it, the marketing boost for the time that you put into doing that I would say is a win, and then having that funding that comes out of it too is an extra little boost on top of that.
Yeah. And likewise, things like Steam Greenlight and early access are really good ways to market your game,
or even gauge interest.
Or gauge interest.
Yeah.
I think Steam Early Access is great for teams that maybe need a little bit of funding closer to when they're shipping and kind of need that push over the finish line, which I see all the time. That's a pretty common thing where you just didn't plan properly and you run out of money a few months before you're shipping. Steam Early Access
is really unawesome.
Yeah, it's really unawesome, and you
which is why you have a plan early.
Yes, and you plan you plan very conservatively and assume things are going to go wrong because they will, and
with that too, do you have much information about where like some of the mistakes people do in planning, especially around finances? Do you have any like idea of what the biggest pitfalls there? Like, I didn't think about this was going to happen, and it did, and now here I am at that 90% mark, and what do I do? Scrap 3 years of work, or what do I do next? Right?
A lot of the stuff I see is what's really important is scope control.
Yeah.
You see a lot of projects that start out and they blow their scope at some point, in the project, and that's usually where they get into pretty serious trouble. If you're planning and you're like, oh, we've got enough money to get us to this prototype stage, and we're going to go pitch it to funding sources, maybe some publishers or VCs or other things. I mean, if those aren't successful and you don't raise money, I've seen guys try to keep it rolling, and if they didn't plan to roll it through on sweat equity from day one, that's a really difficult transition.
Yeah, high risk.
And it depends on where you are as a game developer. I mean, if you're a group of newbies and you're just getting started, sweat equity works great. That is totally the way to get to market. Take a look at Torn Banner with Chivalry.
Yeah.
Those guys started out as like 5 guys in a garage essentially, while they were all working remotely in 5
garages.
5 separate garages, and now they transitioned from sweat equity to having a successful game. I mean, they were a mod team to begin with, and transitioning into a company that now has a real office and they pay their employees and that kind of thing. I mean,
people get paid.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So look at companies like that. I think Torn Banner,
Coffee Stain, also UT3 mod.
Yeah,
that was their beginnings.
Really good.
Students.
They've done a lot of talks that I think are in the GDC archives about their transition from being an indie dev and the pitfalls of all of that, kind of what we were talking about. It would be really good to check that out. I think with Torn Banner, I want to try to get Steve Piggott from there to come on our stream at some point, because they're just a huge success story for me. They really handled that transition well. But
well, in watching it grow too. I mean, I remember the first time I played Chivalry, like what it felt like that moment, like right when they made the switch to UE3. Yeah. And then where they are now, it's just like that small team has come a long way, and they have really, really, really shined.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got as a game developer, there are a ton of resources out there that you can kind of read about what other people have done and the pitfalls that they've come across. There's a lot of postmortems on companies and game development to see what other people have done. I would just say, just plan for things to go wrong, and they probably will, and then you have some pad. That's always kind of there. And then the other thing is, like, before you ever sign a deal with a partner, whether it's a publisher or a contractor or any sort of relationship that you could potentially have in the industry, do your research and talk to your peers, talk to the other game developers about those companies and see what experiences have been, because that's it. This industry isn't competitive in that everybody's gonna hold information and not tell you who are the bad companies to deal with. Very open and honest, so you should take advantage of that and find kind of those people in the industry that have gone before you and learned lessons and really talk to them.
Definitely, people like is it Rami Ismail? Like that's all he does is talk about
he's great,
his experiences and development and working with people of all kinds. Yeah. Real quick question for Amber, actually. Advertising in games. When do I advertise my game? Do I advertise my Kickstarter? Do I advertise that I'm building a game, or do I just start moving forward there? That's a place I know nothing about, and I want to know more about.
Okay. Why, Chance, are you building a game?
I don't want to talk about it.
So yeah, advertising is interesting. You don't really want to start advertising or spending money around ads until you have a product that is playable and people can go and buy and purchase. Like, if you're going to be putting money behind advertising, you really want to make sure that those dollars are going to equate, dollars spent equate back to dollars in your pocket. So probably I would wait until you have a launched game, even if it's Steam Early Access or whatever, something that people can pay for, because what you're going to want to do when you set up an ad campaign is you're going to want to see how much money you're spending, and then you're going to want to drive people to a very particular place, like where they can hit buy now, and then that money should come back into your wallet. So
yeah, you need metrics to see whether that stuff's working.
You do, exactly. And another thing I think a lot of people starting out don't realize, and this isn't even just a games industry thing, this is just an advertising thing, is when you set up an ad campaign, you really want to say right before you set it up is, this is my goal, this is what I'm trying to do, and then set up your ad campaign so it will go and do that thing. If it is driving people to your Kickstarter, then you're going to want to make sure all the links in your ads go to Kickstarter. I know it sounds so dumb, but it's
like,
true.
oh, I got to a Twitter post that has a Kickstarter link in it. It's like, how did this work? What have I done wrong?
Yeah. And so I think, advertising is a really great way to get exposure to audiences that are not already following you, that, might like your game. You can really, like, Facebook and Twitter have really great ways of targeting audiences. So you could say, my game is a first-person shooter that's going to be on console. You might want to target ads to people who say they like Call of Duty or whatever. Because you can do that.
Yep.
You can do that, and you don't need a huge ad budget. Like, it's a really great way to test things and learn about your audience. And again, it's a really great way to get exposure to an audience that is not liking you or following you on Facebook. That being said, please don't buy follows on Facebook. Do not. That is a waste of money. They're not real.
They're not real.
Do not do that. People can like your page if they see your ad, even if you're trying to drive them to your website or to your Steam page or whatever. So don't buy follows on Facebook, please. And I don't want to see someone come send me an email in a couple of weeks, be like, you told me to buy Facebook ads. Now I have all these people in Bangladesh who never buy my game. Like, don't do that. So, but yeah, I mean, advertising is a great way to get a lot of good exposure and to test things out. Test out branding, for example. You can set up a bunch of different kinds of ads and see what people are resonating with.
I like what you say too about advertising, when you've got something kind of to sell to somebody, right? Like,
Yes.
And we talked with Joe about, are you getting?
Oh, my Twitter's blowing up.
I see.
Everybody's commenting about my beard. For some reason. What?
No. I comment about your beard for all the reasons. No, but we talk about, same thing with a Kickstarter, you're trying to sell yourself there, your idea to people. Like, that's where people are buying. They're essentially
That's your product
They're essentially
launch.
buying
Yeah.
your product, right?
Yeah.
And with advertising, with Kickstarter, with everything, I'm sure you've seen a lot. I know I have, of people that are they show off something and they say it is all of these things, and it's just really just a place you can walk through.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, lots of text never turn into sales. Like, you gotta
Right.
People
you've
want
gotta
to
show
see the
things.
game
Yeah.
in
Right.
action, playable
right.
characters.
And
I
so
mean,
if you don't have those things, then it's not
it's
necessarily.
not time yet.
It's
At
especially
least
not.
for Kickstarter. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's not indicative of your game, right? Like, you're not at that. You're selling them something that is not what you're selling them that thing, and you're telling them your vision
The
next to it.
the
That's not
publisher
whole thing
pitch
together.
or a Kickstarter pitch nowadays is 30 seconds to a minute of awesome gameplay that really transmits the concept of your game to the viewer. You need that. It has to be it has to be of the polish level that you expect to ship with, and just really wow the viewer. And it doesn't have to be very long, very short. But having that versus 20 minutes of rough cut, gameplay just don't show stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to derail anything, but we haven't really touched on PR that much. And I saw like Avatron ask what's up with this embargo
Jason.
thing? Is it for indies? And it's like, okay, so let's just back up a second and talk a little bit about this. I think the most important thing that you need for starters, is in addition to having something really fun and awesome to play, is kind of like, what's your razor pitch for your game, right? Like, what is your just elevator, like, fit it into 10 to 20 words, like, what is the essence of your game, and the tone, like, everything should kind of be there. It needs to be crisp, and it's something that you need to, like, test out on your friends. And then when you've got that, then you have a reason to talk to the media, right? And so I think the best way to go about it is to figure out who are the reporters covering games like yours, or like kind of figure out, like, it's not hard to, like, track a reporter's coverage and figure out, okay, this person really loves JRPGs, this person hates shooters. Try to kind of feel that out and start personally, like, introducing yourselves. Just a really quick little email that says, hey, here's who we are, this is our game, would love to tell you more if you're interested. And if you can send links to screenshots and things like that,
that's
great.
add
But
videos and
don't send them
screenshots.
a wall of text. It won't get read.
No. Well, I think, the idea of practicing, I know you sort of
Yeah.
said it, but I feel like I can't stress that enough, is come up with what you think your pitch is going to be, say it out loud, write it down, practice in front of the mirror, tell it to everybody you see. You whatever. Go to the mall and there's a cashier there ringing you out at the Gap or whatever, or probably no one on the stream shops at the Gap, but whatever.
Hey.
Hey. Do you shop at the Gap?
These are Gap jeans.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
Well, if you run into Chance at the Gap, give him your elevator pitch. Practice it on the cashier. Practice it on your mom who doesn't even know what you're talking about. Like, practice it on everybody just to see how that goes.
Practice it on us. We're harmless.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's actually true. Yeah, feel free. You know, I get a lot of people asking me about feedback on their Kickstarters or different things like that. Like, just shoot me a PM on the forums, or if you got my email, which most of you probably do. Just shoot it my way. Happy to chat with you through a lot of that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, when you have that and you've got a significant news beat that you're ready to talk about, whether it's like your website's going live with gameplay video, you're going to talk about, you just want to make it official to the world, start kind of, reaching out to those, those journalists as you can. And if you don't get a response right away, maybe follow up in 48 hours, or maybe 3 days, but don't send too many emails. If they're interested,
don't hound people.
Yeah, if they're interested, they'll reply. If they're not, just move on. It's like sales. You knock on a door, you don't get an answer. Keep going until somebody says yes, right? And then if they agree to an embargo, which is basically, it says, hey, I want to share information with you about my game, and if you could just hang on to that, sit tight on that until X date at this hour, if that person agrees, then just open the doors and tell them whatever they want to know. Share whatever you can with them. And then that way, on the date and time of your embargo, when you send out your news, you may have other coverage already in the can, ready to launch. Because these days, it's really hard to just spray out a press release and hope somebody covers it. I mean, even for us, we can't really do that anymore, right? Like, it's just, there's so much noise. You have to figure out, who is my message, who is my game kind of going to resonate with, where's my audience. And I know that that's easier said than done because it takes time, but if you can get, there are lots of good agencies representing independent developers these days. There's lots of good freelancers. We're happy to help people, point people in the right direction. Then you can get somebody else to do that for you.
Yeah, and I would even argue too, from their perspective, or even the public's perspective, until you have that elevator pitch, that short thing, you don't have a game.
Right.
Like you might have a game in development, or a thing in development, but your game has not become a product until you've kind of got those things figured out.
Yeah, until you have that figured out, you can hold back on the marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool.
And for God's sakes, have a good-looking website. That's
Yeah.
that's
or at
important.
least have a website.
Yeah.
Let's
Have a
start there,
website,
right? Yeah.
A nice, simple, clean website. Doesn't have to be the fanciest thing in the world. Doesn't have to look like our website. Just a nice website with what you're doing, maybe some updates and like images, like just really simple.
Yeah, and I would even say updates are really important on that too, because if somebody shows you your website and it's like 2011, they're like,
Yeah,
is
exactly
this
what's
even happening
happening.
anymore? Right.
Yeah, just show activity, right? Like
Yeah.
the whole, traditional PR tactics embargo, it's not for everybody. I mean, you can start at the ground level and just show progress, kind of like your history of ownership with your product, and you show the evolution. You help tell that story to the market so people understand what it's all about.
And the same is true of your Facebook page. If you have a Facebook page, like post to it.
Right.
There's nothing sadder when you go to someone, we go to someone's Facebook page and some game and like, we're like, cool, what's going on with these guys? Or,
Amazing screenshot.
yeah. And it's
then,
like, they haven't updated it in like 6 months or whatever. Like if you're going to be on a particular platform, make sure you update that platform and show activity. And, if you can't do it 12 times a day like Dana on Twitter, then don't be on Twitter, be on Facebook.
Yeah. And this guy yeah. Yeah. For those of y'all that are all like, you guys are awesome on Twitter.
That lady right there.
Just yeah, I can't stop.
I know.
I can't stop. I love you guys. I love you.
There's so much going on there, right? We just want to talk to you everywhere, all the time. No, but it's interesting you say that. And similar, like, one of Joe's notes on here is, identify and interact with your community. Do it.
Yeah,
right?
it's
like
community, right?
Right.
That's how you market your game. It's the biggest bang for the buck. It's stuff you can do for free.
Those are people that talk about you when you can't talk about yourself,
Exactly.
right? And as long as you're open and transparent and honest with them, I mean, it's worked out for a lot of people. Just getting those kind of people involved, especially if you're doing early access or green light, you got to be in there talking to people.
Have forums, be interactive with people that are interested in your game, because they'll spread the word and get more people interested. You know.
Yeah, especially if you're on a budget and you can't necessarily do a lot of that word of mouth marketing by like hiring people out other places to help you do that.
Yep.
But on that note, PR spend, like spending money on PR as like an independent developer, it's something that not a whole lot of people think about. How valuable do you think that is for a smaller team?
It really depends on what your goals are. You know, kind of like Amber's talking about paid media. You know, are you looking to get more people to go to your Kickstarter? Are you trying to convert more people on Steam, right? I think it's really important to deploy PR resources when you have a strong call to action. You know,
Yeah, you almost want to hold back on any spending until you.
I'd say until you're about ready to launch.
Yeah, you are effectively driving sales in some way.
You are collecting revenue.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Then it's time to kick things into gear and make sure everybody knows about your game and that they can go and get it.
But hopefully you did, you know, enough work over the previous 6 months where you have a really big group of people that know about your game, and then you're just kind of augmenting. You know, you don't want to just show up and have to buy your way into that. That's just you're never, even a large company can't afford that.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, we're talking about spend and different types of paid media, that you want to wait until you have a game. But I feel like there's what's called earned media, or basically free media. So things like your
blog.
website and Facebook and
Earned
Twitter and
sounds
stuff like
a whole
that.
lot better than free.
Yeah, they call it
It's like,
earned.
I earned it.
I earned that
Earned or
somehow.
owned
Yeah.
media.
You know, that I think you can start before there's a strong call to action. Like if you want to drive people to your website or start building your community before your game is completely launched, I think that's good. But then you don't really want to spend money and start actually trying to get people in until you actually have something for them to get into.
Absolutely. I think as soon as you know that you have something great that you want to ship, that's when you start your owned media channels. You know, make sure you have a blog. And if you're settled on a name for your game or your studio, go squat on all the handles, on all the social channels that you can. Just go ahead and grab it.
Even if you have like super clever name, just take it.
Yeah, even if you
I have
can't.
no idea what you're gonna do with it yet.
Even if you can't start updating it yet, at least you have it. And then when you're ready, you can start testing content there and see what works.
Well, and that process of going out and trying to you know, squat on all the handles might tell you somebody else already has the name.
Yeah.
You
Which
know,
is-
because
And
you're going to
it's
hire
good
a
to
lawyer.
know,
Because
right?
you're going to hire a lawyer to
Yeah,
go do
basically,
the search.
which is exactly
but
what-
before
yeah.
you do, that might give you an indication of you might need to pick another name.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
a great way to also figure out, like, is this name going to work or not?
Yeah.
I mean, if you Google it and you look like you're in the clear, and then you go and search the handles and you're in the clear, then
Yeah.
you're probably okay.
Don't name it something that when you type it into Google, it has a lot of other results.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, you want to be
Or
certain.
undesirable results.
yeah.
on that, yeah, me too.
Oh, I have some examples of that, but I'm not going there.
At the same time, like a name that is rememberable, a name that is spellable.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of I've seen billboards before for brands or companies, and it's like if somebody were to speak that word to me, I would have no idea how to find them.
Yeah.
You know, so there's, especially in the English language where we have a lot of the same words that are the same things, right?
Yep.
So that's important too. Cool. We're getting we're almost to 3, so I'm going to go ahead and scoop on to the next thing here. But platforms for shipping. Know where you want to go. And this actually plays into your audience too, right?
Yeah.
Like different audiences interact on different channels in different ways. The barrier of entry to just about anything now is pretty low in comparison to where it was.
Today compared to 10 years ago, there's no barriers to shipping a console game. I mean, 10 years ago, you had to be a professional game developer with a series of shipped titles before the console guys would
And
even
a
talk to
significant
you.
budget.
Yeah, or you were going through a publisher, which just doesn't work anymore for in a lot of cases. So now there's no barrier to entry, which means you really have to pay attention to your target platform. And your target platform when you begin may not be where you ship, because the optimal platform to generate revenue for an independent game developer does move. So 5, maybe longer, when the iPhone was a new thing, if you could get a mobile game out there like we did with Infinity Blade, you can make a lot of money. But now that marketplace is so crowded that as a small developer without a giant budget, maybe not the best place for you to go. And right now, if you look at the consoles, they've been the Xbox One and the PS4 have been pretty successful, but there isn't a ton of content on them because of the trends of the AAA guys doing fewer titles and putting more into each one. So there's these gaps in the schedule where you as an indie could slot in there really well.
Find a good home.
And Sony and Microsoft would be happy to promote you.
Yeah.
And so console's a really good place to go right now. Steam, of course, has always been the place for smaller teams, but also niche content, like Railroad Simulator and Farm Simulator and
Goat Simulator.
Goat Simulator and all the simulators, but also really hardcore shooters like Red Orchestra and all these really cool things have found their audiences on Steam. So that's a potential really good place for you to go, but it's also getting crowded. So you have to think about that. Like you really have to find ways to stand out to get some noise on Steam.
Well, it's funny, too. Like know these people, meet these people, know these people, go to shows.
That's a big thing that we need to talk about. You've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, you've got to network and meet people and form relationships. That's how so much business gets done.
I'm shocked sometimes when I find people that are like, I just don't think that I can justify the value of being at GDC. And I'm just like,
yeah.
I was like, I don't know that I can.
It's time consuming and expensive to go to these things, but it gets you in front of the thought leaders in the industry, and you'll get great feedback, and learn a lot from those guys. But it also gets you in front of the press, in front of the funding sources, publishers, VCs, whatever. And showing your game at PAX and Indiecade puts you on the radar. People, especially if you have a really good showing where people get super excited about your game, they'll start talking about it on social media, or maybe you get super lucky and a YouTube guy that has a big following gets excited about your game, and it just blows up from there. So it's incredibly expensive for an indie to go to those events, but you've got to do it. And there's ways to do it, and kind of leverage partnerships, leverage the people you do know. Try to make nice with people like NVIDIA and AMD and all the console guys, and you'll
maybe engine provider.
You may be an engine provider like Epic Games. We do stuff like that.
Submit to indie festivals. There are lots of indie showcases. Like Develop's got one. Lots of different conferences have indie showcases, and then of course occasionally, nice. The partner stickers are going up now.
Yeah.
Leverage your partners and other
Yes,
awesome
leverage your
developers. Yeah.
We are here for you.
Yes.
Yeah, but get your game out there as much as you can. I know the submissions take a lot of time. If you're a student, oh man, there are so many good student showcases. Like I just had the pleasure of judging or helping judge the ESA's college game competition, and went through all the submissions. There's some awesome stuff being done. But all these students, because they submitted to this and they got in front of people in the industry, like they're on people's radar, and it's just, what are you guys laughing
Step
at?
one, make
make
stickers.
Yes,
True.
Dave Oshry, make stickers.
We love stickers.
Yes, and
We
make
love
good
stickers.
T-shirts and hand them out,
Yeah.
right? So people will wear them.
But
but make sure your logo looks good on a sticker, because
Yep.
Make sure it looks good on a sticker and on a laptop, because especially, at these events, that's all I see is MacBooks just stickered out,
Stickered
right?
up, yeah.
All kinds of like, ooh, what's that? Talk to me about your game.
Yeah.
And as somebody that's done that whole thing, like never been to a show before, show up, don't know anybody there except for the people I'm with and maybe a couple of other industry partners years ago, and trying to pitch a game, it can be really intimidating too, right? Like not being in an environment you're familiar with. You gotta
you got to start out slow.
Yeah.
Just show up. Maybe you observe what's going on.
Yep.
Don't get over aggressive in pitching your game, and watch what's going on.
And don't get overwhelmed too. Like don't try to do everything. Like kind of understand why you're there. Find out the people you kind of want to be around, who they are, and find out where you might be able to go interact with them. And
Yeah, just try to build relationships and take that opportunity to listen and absorb all the things going on around you, and and then follow up with the people that you meet.
I just want to also mention, I see people talking about our shirts. Epic, we use Next Level Tri-Blend shirts, just FYI. And we also this year started making women's shirts with a V-neck because girls don't like wearing men's shirts. Just FYI, just thought.
Yep.
So.
I'll write that down. Okay.
Yeah. If y'all want the names of our vendors or anything, hit us up.
Yep.
I don't know if Vince from Shield Brick is in there, but I think maybe I saw him. But yeah, like we're happy to make introductions. We have awesome vendors.
We love our vendors.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so also in here too, talk about post-launch. Know what's going to happen after your game's in the wild. If you're in a mobile game, you might do a soft launch in a market that you can collect metrics and then pivot on things to make sure that you're really serving the audience well. You have something that's really worth playing. If you're on console, sit back and wait for all the things to break, and then have that patch after the fact, right?
Launch for your title nowadays doesn't. It's always kind of this soft. There's early access. You're in a beta program usually where a lot of people have access to the game. It's going to be this continuous thing, and you have to keep the marketing beats up even post ship on a very regular basis to show that you're still active, in the game and keep people involved and keep the community involved. And you want to have a plan for updating your game as soon as you launch. A regular cadence of updates and marketing beats just generates more people gets more people into the game, which should generate revenue for you.
Yep, totally. Yeah, and with that too, last thing we got here before we can move on to QA is we've seen this shift with all these new emerging, well, not emerging markets, but everything is becoming so accessible, like console, mobile, everything. The whole do-it-yourself crowd exists, right? Where it didn't necessarily 10, 15 years ago. Similar to music, there became indie labels, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of independent publishers out there too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're Joe, I know you know a number of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's publishing for smaller developers is kind of coming back a little bit. There for a while it was either these giant titles or that was it. But you have companies like 505 Games and Versus Evil. Sierra Online's making a comeback, as a new brand to do digital download games. So there are some options out there, especially if you're a seasoned developer that is starting a new studio. You should definitely talk to those guys. 310 with Adam and the Adrift game, they signed with 505. And I think that's worked out really well for them. They were looking for kind of a funding source. And if you have the experience that you can pitch, and you have that amazing, 30 seconds to a minute of super polished gameplay that you can pitch somebody on, and your pitch is strong. You have strong pitch.
You believe in it.
Then you can start talking to those folks and see if it's going to work out for you. I don't recommend that for everybody.
Yeah,
nowadays you don't necessarily need to work with a partner to get to market. You can, hire QA. You can hire PR firms, and just kind of outsource all that yourselves. And it means you're going to get a bigger cut of the pie. But for some products, if you're going for a fairly large production with professionals, that's not going to work. So.
It's funny, we had the panel with Forrest from The Molasses Flood, Adam from 310, Pete Bottomley from White Paper, and Joe from the Numa team.
Awesome.
And all of them had completely different funding and publisher experiences, right? So it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all. It's definitely not something that everybody should pursue, but it's something you should take a look at to kind of see if it matches your business goals and your goals to launch and who your audience is, like what all that looks like, and then you can kind of judge that.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, and Joe had we made a few notes beforehand, but he just as far as like watching your metrics as you launch, you've got early access now. I mean, like they're all just little milestones because most of our games these days, it is kind of a live services environment where you're always, changing the shape of your product to make the community happier. So it's like even if you have slow momentum,
or if you're not doing well.
Right. Right. So watch your momentum, and it's okay if your growth is slow at the start, but just watch your metrics and keep optimizing and testing and deploying.
Yeah. As long as you're seeing some growth, you can you can continue to update the game. It doesn't matter necessarily that you start out a little slow. If you look at Smite from Hi-Rez, that game's been out or playable, at least in a beta stage for a couple of years now, I think, and just now it's really taken hold and
Huge.
hockey sticking, you know, and getting
Yeah.
some trajectory. So, as long as you have the cadence to continue to update and build community, at some point it'll reach this mass where it just all of a sudden explodes.
Yep, and with that too, like if you're going to be taking metrics and you're going to be, sampling where you are over time, it's really important you know what you consider success, right? So you know what is good or bad towards that goal, right? One of the questions that came across here was like, how do I pick what my pricing should be? And it's like, well, there's a lot of models now that don't have a price, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's how do you monetize then, and
I think-
how do you then quantify success in monetization?
You want to look at what your peers are doing on the pricing. What's been successful on Steam. Don't bomb out your price. Like, I think that's detrimental to the entire industry. You got to see what games that are similar to you or you feel have the same kind of promise or return on purchase price. See what they're doing, and kind of model it around that, because you want to maximize what the money you're getting per copy, but you also want to use price as a way to get people interested in your game to some extent as well.
And to build on that, I would actually, this tends to be a pretty traditional marketing line, but don't, like kind of what Joe was saying, don't, bomb out on your price right away. And actually what I would recommend is whatever your peers are doing, I would actually make your price a little bit higher to start with. You can always go down on price. You cannot go back up. You can't. Like no one, you're like, oh, this thing was $20 and now it's $25. That's not going to work. But if you start at $25 and you're not getting the lift that you want, and you've done all of the promotion, and you've done some advertising, you've done, some PR, don't just expect people are going to buy your game immediately. You do have to promote it. If you feel like you've exhausted all your options and you're at 25, then yeah, go down to 20 and see how it goes. But start maybe just a little bit higher than you think, and have confidence in your game. Like, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Cool.
One of the comments here is can you really get anyone to buy a $5 mobile game? Yes, that is coming back.
I know. I'm like, I actually won't
So
do free mobile games
happy
anymore.
about
It's coming
that.
back.
I'm
Yeah.
not.
We will see premium content on mobile again, I predict.
Well, Apple did the whole pay once and play, right? They're trying
Yeah.
to, kind of separate the free to play versus
It needs to
something
come
that-
back for a healthy ecosystem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, totally.
Cool. So yeah, we can move on over to questions now. We've got a few in here. I've got them up on the screen here. So just if you want, I'll read them off, or you can grab it too. So one of them is, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, what are the strategies to stand out with all the noise? Like, open platforms means everybody is publishing, right?
Honestly, I think that's all about having a really good sense of your identity, and going back to that whole branding idea, and like what makes you special, your studio, your game, you yourself. I mean, I think for a lot of indie developers, it's not, you're not EA and, oh, Madden is Madden and that's its own story. You're in a special place where you can talk a little bit about yourself, where your game ends and where you end. It's a little bit fuzzier. So selling that story, getting that story together, and like really thinking about why. I actually would think of it as, what made you start making this game in the first place? Like, you sat down one day and you're like, man, I have a really awesome idea. Why did you think it was an awesome idea? Because there's so many games out there. The market is very flooded. If you can sort of pinpoint and then clearly articulate in under a minute what that thing is, and then have that go through in all of your assets, all of your branding, and your studio name, your logo, your website, et cetera, if you're able to clearly state that, I think that's one way to definitely stand out, because I don't know if people think about that as often as they should.
Standing out, if you're making a compelling experience, take something out of your game that's super interesting and put that out into your social media.
Make it
and
iconic.
And you'll stand out, right? It is your game about amazing visuals? Is it, or does it have a really cool art style like that the glowy dog that we saw earlier?
Yeah.
Like, you put that up on some screenshots and
Someone's
people
going to recognize
People
that
will
dog.
remember that.
people will gravitate towards your game that are really interested in that kind of art style or gameplay, or have something that communicates what your game's about really quickly, and that's how you stand out.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And I know we were kind of bragging earlier on Coffee Stain a little bit. I mean, I think they've got it kind of figured out. It's like You know, you look at like their first game, Sanctum, that was kind of like their big, you know, first success, and then along comes Goat Simulator, completely different.
Yeah.
But I mean, they totally nail it with their tone and the execution. I mean, even the way they talk
perfect.
to people on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, it's so irreverent and so
Yeah.
funny. The way they, I mean, you know,
Essentially the way Goat Simulator came about is they hired some new people to start up a second team at Coffee Stain and said, here's Unreal Engine 3, go play with this, you know, just learn the engine and then come back. And the team went out and bought some cheap assets. I think they paid like $2 for the Goat. And built this sandbox, and it was buggy and crazy and wacky, and they were like, "Whoa, well, this is kind of cool." And as I think it was like a April Fool's joke, or it was like a joke. They put out a video on YouTube and didn't say much about it, and it kind of took off. And at the same time, you know, those guys kind of adopted this personality around the game where all of the negative comments or like you know kind of shady comments they would comment on and kind of fight back in a funny way, and it just blew up.
It doesn't work for everybody.
No. You have to know know what you're building, right? I think
Yeah.
for a comedy game about a goat that works really well. Might not work if you're doing like a World War II shooter, but I think for them it was perfect. But you know they're not. You pointed this out earlier, Dana. You know, Coffee Stain has some external developers that they're working with now, and it's a completely different voice around those games.
They've actually
you know?
kind of morphed into a developer / indie publisher.
Yeah.
Like a story about my uncle. It was like this started out, I believe, as a student project, UE3, and they were sort of collaborating with him, and they're like, "Whoa, this is really cool," you know. And it's totally serious, more like narrative driven. But you know, but that's also them too, right? And they've managed to do separation of church and state. Each product has its own very distinct brand and voice and feel, and it works.
Yeah. You know, see what works. If you look at companies like Vlambeer, like all their games have been you know super successful, and you know they have these crazy art styles, but they're really like Rami's super active on social media and gets out at all of the conferences and talks about you know the games and
It's kind of everywhere all the time.
yeah,
right?
like he just owns that social channel, and so once you have a mastery of that social channel and build up a following, you just every product that you ship through there, it'll benefit from it over time.
Cool. We're getting a little close on time, so I'm going to see what we can do for some of these questions. One of them is like, can being too transparent during, you know, while you're trying to self-promote your game be a little harmful in your marketing before it's there? Like giving up too much information. Can you show all the good parts in the trailer? You know what I mean? Like how comedies do that. Does that translate to games prior to ship?
I mean, you want to start marketing your game when it looks attractive, or is at a state where it's going to get people interested. If you do it a little too early and it looks a little amateurish, that might turn some people off. But you know, I've seen people be completely open with the community over the development cycle. I've rarely see that backfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rarely.
Yeah, I mean, certainly if there's, you know, something that would be considered a spoiler, you know, you might want to hold that back. Or if there's some, you know, if you have enough good, juicy content to get you most of the way there, but you want to hold a little bit back so that you can build out a pipeline
Right.
so that you don't blow everything at once, like that's fine too. But it just, you know, I think
like-
it depends on the team.
If you lose transparency, though, that's a big no-no,
It's
right?
kind of like you can't put the price back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go silent on the community.
Yeah.
They will not like
People
that.
will be skeptical.
Yeah, that's-
Got to keep talking.
That's a good point. It's like, you know, the old E3 demo was always, people kind of maybe know about the game beforehand, but they're going to show that big feature at that show, and that's going to be the big thing that gets all the buzz moving again.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. One more here from the forums we had. How do we market to people without direct buying power? Like, for example, Kickstarter Steam campaign might be virtually useless if a game appeals to schools, like elementary school, larger companies that, you know, have a proven history, or larger companies that have a proven history can reach out to TV, Cartoon Network, etc., to market towards a crowd, you know, that's outside of your standard web, you know, outlets.
Yeah. I think if you're making a game that is great for kids and is educational, there's actually a lot of PR might be a good route there, because there are probably a lot of outlets that would cover that sort of thing. You know, and you could do that without
That's a really good point.
spending a ton of money.
Well, and also I feel like, send, there are a lot of kids sites and stuff like that out there. I don't think there's any harm in just sending them an email. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
say here's
Like,
some codes for my app. Just check it out, please.
Yeah, target your audience.
Well, and
Yeah.
at the same time too, I have seen children's games hit Kickstarter, especially if they're like learning or educational, and people see the value in that, and they say this is really cool, and it'll get picked up by a magazine or like a site like Wired, or somebody's like, hey, these people are using the iPad in the classroom for this or that, right? And it's like, this is really cool. They're revolutionizing some specific space.
Well, and also actually that's how parents, I feel like a lot of parents these days, that's how they entertain their kids. They're like, oh, here's the phone, or here's the
Yeah,
iPad. We're trying to have, a nice dinner at a restaurant. And we didn't have that as kids, so my brother and I would probably just run around screaming. But, now I don't know, there's no harm in doing that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of parenting blogs out there too. You might consider looking at some of the top ones and just throwing them a pitch.
Or also partnering with other people making similar, type style games.
It's the same. Find people that are in that same vein and see kind of what they're doing. Talk
to them, see if you can partner, work together,
One from the chat that I want to bring up. When is Epic coming back to Texas? I was just there with Alan Willard. I just got back from Texas, so sorry if I
The
missed
Steam
you.
VR Jam.
Yeah, we'll probably be doing something sometime somewhere in Texas at some point in the future, but I don't really know anything's on the books at this point. Should devs hop onto Facebook first and find some folks for meeting before going to GDC? Yes and no. It's kind of like, don't be creepy, right? Don't be those old rules. Don't be
if
a
you've
tool.
got if you've got your elevator pitch down and some good screenshots, maybe you reach out to a few folks. But if you're not there yet, maybe you just go.
See, I'm one of those people. If you add me or you message me on Facebook, I don't know you.
Yeah.
I'm not on Facebook anyway. But when I get on there, I'm like, oh, maybe my mom wrote me or something. I'm like, oh, I don't know these people, and so it's just complete shot in the dark for them, right?
Yeah.
I think one important question, like one way to look at that is like, think about it from the recipient's perspective, like what's in it for me,
Yeah.
Same thing for the press.
Yeah.
Like, why do my readers care?
Yeah. Why do I care?
So you. And then let's see. Gosh, there was another question I saw come through on the chat. Maybe it was half joking. Should I worry about people stealing my game ideas? No.
No.
Oh,
Ideas are cheap. As execution is what matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Period.
Yep. All right. I think we got a couple more here, and then we'll kick up the jam.
Stop
And
asking me to sign
I saw one
NDAs
more
for an
question
idea,
that
please.
we.
What's up?
Okay.
Yeah.
This was a really
Of
good
these three.
question, and it's been something that we've been having lots of conversations
Oh,
about.
yeah.
How can I market my VR game,
project.
and how can I get good assets out of that? Do you want to take some of this, or do you want me to start?
Yeah. So this is a continually. Wait. So first off, there's not like that end platform. You have things you're going to be building.
We don't have.
There's no story yet.
We don't have VR app stores
Right.
yet.
So you
We
can't
will,
go to the store and pick up. It's like, Space Simulator 400. This is the best VR experience. I can't go to Walmart and pick that up, right?
Yeah.
I can't go to a website and purchase that. So since it's kind of the Wild West still, a lot of those pieces are still coming into place. But what we've seen with VR specifically for video, this is transparently something we've been discussing a lot lately on how the best way to actually get that moving out is. Stereo doesn't really look good ever. Like if you record in stereo, you put that on YouTube, people will be like, oh, I can kind of see what that is, but you can't tell the depth, you can't tell how awesome it is. You're looking at two convoluted screens that are sitting there next to each other, and so there are sometimes what I've done in the past is I would record the entire experience with like a screen sharing software or a screen cap software, and another person with the Rift on with their eyes closed, and then somebody behind them telling them exactly what to do. Look this way, look that way, so they can have what the natural experience would be on a medium that we already understand, which is that 2D video. And then you see the other person, like you can kind of picture them on a green screen or something, and show the movement of the head that kind of communicates that that's actually what's controlling the things. If they have controllers, the same kind of things.
Yeah.
Others have done that for Unreal Dev grants that have been submitted. I've seen very similar things where they'll show us 2D
Yep.
video of what's going on, because my computer sends me that, and then they have video of them actually doing whatever the thing is with the Hydra controllers or whatever they've got in their hands.
Yeah, and I know in Showdown we've been able to go and set up a matinee to where it, we can set up our camera and kind of, since it's already kind of on rails anyways, and you can go through and see the scene. In fact, we're creating a new asset right now, but Kite and Lightning actually released their 360 movie plugin, which you can just go and download for free.
Oh, yeah,
and try it out. If you look at Kite and Lightning's blog, I mean, they've been able to produce great 2D video assets for all of their projects because they developed this thing in house, and they actually just open sourced Sense of Peso yesterday. I highly recommend if you're developing for VR, go grab that.
Probably a good one to dig through and find out all that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
We got 2 more in here. Preferred blogging platforms or website tools for people starting up. Like WordPress site. I know so many
I
people
think
that just spin
whatever
up a WordPress
is going to
site.
be easiest for you to use.
Yeah.
and
Get a
keep
domain
up to
for
date.
Get
sure,
something
right?
that's easy to update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off
Something
the
that
shelf.
is not going to be
Has lots of lots of support.
Don't develop your own CMS.
Yeah. If your specialty is art or web design or game development, and it's not web development, find a tool that works well, that's heavily supported, that's got plugins, something that is the least impact to you, because you're going to end up burning a lot of time and working around convoluted tools that aren't set up for those things.
Ooh, are there tools for social media management that you can recommend? I know you still use TweetDeck?
I use the crap out of TweetDeck.
Yeah.
TweetDeck's great because you can follow trends, you can follow individuals, just streams and streams and streams and streams of it. So we're able to pick up on, the UE4 hashtag I keep on there, the Screenshot Saturday hashtag I keep up on there, Unreal Engine mentions, and my account is associated as Chance, so I can actually see stuff that's happening with Unreal Engine and then join the
Without
conversation
having to be logged
without
in.
having to be
Yeah.
Unreal Engine or switch accounts back and forth. It's a great tool for like a dashboard specifically for that. It also works with Facebook and probably those other ones that we don't use. But the tough part with TweetDeck is that it was acquired by Twitter a while back, and you know how those things go. They're like, yeah, we want this thing, and then like, and we'll go back to playing with our toys, and doesn't really get a whole lot of updates. So it doesn't have a ton of new features, but just for keeping track of information, it's great. You can schedule tweets. It's not something we really do much.
we
We like,
you never know what's going to happen on Twitter.
we like to be in the moment when we actually
Yeah.
write something, because it's like, ooh, I'm excited about this thing. I need this thing. Here's the thing. Here's the videos, and what's the state of the space? Okay, push. Hootsuite's another one that's similar to TweetDeck. It's a little bit. I don't like the layout as much because I'm like a dark theme kind of guy. Because I look at computer screens all day long, and my eyeballs hurt. Those two are the biggest for me.
For the longest time, I didn't realize that you could just go, as you're logged into Twitter, and you can go to another tab in the browser and just type in analytics.twitter.com,
Yep.
and boom, free analytics, and you can
Yep.
export the data. You
is
don't have to
pretty
pay
cool.
for it.
And it's a great way to see what stuff is sticking and what is
That's
not.
how you test to see what content
Yep.
works. I mean, I'm obsessed. I check ours like too often.
I mean, the same thing is true of Facebook. If you have a professional Facebook page, there's an Insights tab that you can go to that you can see sort of, and you can export that data as well, and it's fun. Yay Excel
Yeah.
spreadsheets, yay.
If you have Instagram, I mean, it has been updating lately for us, but Icona Square offered some free tools that were pretty handy for a while there.
Yeah.
You might even just Google to see free Instagram or whatever analytics.
Yeah.
Just do a quick Google search. and
Instagram's
see
kind of a weird one too, since it's like phone only. It's like very locked down. You really have to work your way around it to really make it fully customizable, right?
Right.
That's what's been nice about Twitter, having other apps that they have an open API, so you can just access that information whenever you want. We got one more from the chat. We had someone tell me to get a professional email doesn't make a difference. Having like a chance@gamecompany.com versus chance@gmail.com.
Oh my God, no! You have to have a professional. Don't use Gmail.
Yeah.
That's really bad. You have to
Let me close
have
my
to have the
Gmail over
actual
here.
domain name and make it look professional, and always have a what do you call those things at the bottom of every email? A signature.
a SIG file.
Always fill that in with something.
Something.
With something. it is so frustrating. I get an email and I'm just like, who is this person? I have no idea what's going on. And it's an opportunity for you to put your Twitter there.
And
or
it just says,
Facebook.
say
Yep.
Dave.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I don't know who Dave is,
Yeah.
right? You have to go
Yeah.
dig to find the actual email
Yes.
address because the clients don't, they hide all that
opportunity to
stuff
make
now.
yourself look more professional, to do some marketing.
I
like,
mean, some
do
people
it.
who are really established and stuff, and they're off consulting, they can kind of get away with that. But like, if
Right.
you're just sort of starting out and you're trying to brand
Yeah.
who you are and your game is, yep, get that domain.
And yeah, use
it.
that thing. When you set up a website and you set up a domain, chances are it comes with email addresses. Like they
Oh, yeah.
allow you to do that. You know, GoDaddy,
just
whoever is the
catch
hosting.
all
Like,
Yeah.
yep, you
whatever
pay
you
the
wanna
fee, and
make,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, you get 5 addresses. Use those.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Well, cool. We're right at 3:30 now, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap.
That was
unless
quick.
you guys are good. Yeah, I know.
I know,
That
right?
was quick.
I told you it goes pretty
Time
fast up
flies
here,
when
right?
you're
Yeah.
talking about
Oh, yeah.
marketing.
Well,
Game Jam.
well, cool. Yeah. Any last minute
Oh,
thoughts
wow.
before we kick that off?
Well, we'll be on the forums.
Yeah,
we'll go
you'll
in,
find us.
check in.
Yeah, I'm gonna post. I did like a bunch of notes for this talk. I'm just gonna post them up on the forums. So it's kind of my stream of consciousness. I'll edit it a little bit and put it up there.
Yeah, cool. And you can find most of us on Twitter. I know Amber's kind of on Twitter, but she doesn't really post much. But we're around. So if you got questions for us, don't hesitate to reach out. It's what we're here for. I'll pull these guys down now. But yeah, let's go ahead and kick off that game jam. So I know you guys have been waiting since last month. Really excited to get May moving. And by the way, we've moved back to the old submission and review process. So it's like before. Bring it up into the forums. Tell us what you're working on this weekend. If you're streaming, please let us know. Michael Aller, who is in the chat, he will be grabbing everybody's submissions at midnight on Sunday and streaming to the wee hours of the morning. Usually it takes him like 8. So by the time I get into the office, he's kind of shutting it down and sending me the recap of it. So it's always a lot of fun. I might be able to participate this time too. So I just got to find an artist and figure that out. We'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and move over to that if I can get the mouse back. And Alex, if you could kick that bucket, I would be super appreciative. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, I need to hit the refresh.
Refresh.
Raining cats and dogs. So I can't wait to see what
this is
people
gonna
make
be
on this one. Yeah,
fantastic.
this is
Awesome.
a great one. Yeah.
Please make the
so.
dogs pettable. Thanks.
Yeah, you've got from
glowy.
now.
And glowy.
You got from now until the end of the weekend. I was just talking to Melissa, in marketing with us. She's working on the shirts, so those actually should be coming out pretty soon. If I don't have your information from winners in the past, please get it over to me as soon as you can so we can get those out. We're doing them in runs per month. So I'm trying to get everybody's for that month, and then moving forward, since each shirt is actually custom, or each month is actually custom. Swag bags for April and March are going out as soon as they can as well. So look out for that. Can't wait to see what you guys make. We'll see you next week. We got a recruiting stream with Emily.
nice.
So it'll be
Oh, that'll be
kind
fun.
of what to look
Sweet.
out for, getting a job, into the biz, those kind of things. And on Tuesday we're doing blueprint optimization support stream with Nick Whiting out of Seattle. You probably see his little head kind of pop in. Hopefully here, maybe we can put him on one of the TVs and it'd be a lot more fun.
Maybe you could put his head on multiple TVs.
Oh, you could use one of the telepresence robots.
We actually we tried to do that with
Oh.
James Golding, but we
Yeah.
couldn't get the microphone to like
Close
be
enough
just
to
right.
Just tape it on there, It'll be fine.
Yeah, it's really great. So actually Shelly told me that the audio would be a little bit better for Skype from now on. So I know we had a little bit of cracklies last time, but should be good to go there. So thanks everybody. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Chance, for
Shelly.
inviting
Thanks,
us.
Shelly.
Thanks Alexander and all the awesome people in the chat. We will see you next week.
Okay.